Hey, you were listening to Abyss Gazing, where we talk about all things spooky and mental health.
I'm your co-host, Mark.
And I'm your co-host, Josh, and I'm super excited to be joined on this episode by one of our best short film nominees. He is the director behind the hauntingly beautiful short film Amy and I, Mr. Bastiaan-Rook. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. It's like it's a good time. It's like we can work it out with the time difference because I'm all the way from the Netherlands and it's almost midnight here. But like I'm a night owl, so that's fine.
I I'm so glad that you're a night owl because we've done international calls before, and sometimes international podcasts require Mark and I to like get up or like stay up to like really weird hours. And
Or be
sometimes
up at
there's
like 7 in the morning.
that we've
Wow.
done too.
Yeah, I
So
think I went for a different festival. They did like it was around like COVID time, so a lot of things were done via Zoom as well, and they had like an evening where they talked to all filmmakers, and I was up like it's like 3 a.m. in the morning. It's like, okay, I'm pretty tired now, and I actually want to bed. It's like, well, yeah, like, oh well.
yeah, this worked out for us. Like I just got off work, like y'all heard me say before we got started, just not but a few minutes ago. So
Well,
it kind of worked out well for today, the way we had it all timed.
yeah, and I just also got off work, but I had enough time to brush up on both of your short films on the air, which we'll provide a link to in the descriptions wherever you guys are currently listening to this to. And Amy and I, which is making its festival runs. And one of the things that I have to say about your method of storytelling is that there is this beautiful way to take these really human stories and just kind of paint these like uneasy, tense situations. Uh, there's just such a grounded realism in this that, I think is kind of lost on the the mainstream art of filmmaking. So unless you're like Mark and I and you like independent films, chances are you're probably not going to see this kind of storytelling. Um, but eh, telling these like really human stories, can you kind of talk about where these places kind of come from?
Um, it's tough. Like every different film, like it's like what I do. I'm not really the writer. I'm also very busy in my head. So I have a screenwriter. So I can like I have an idea. I know where it starts to go to the end, and I need a writer who rises from scene to scene, and afterwards we rough it up to like um yeah what it becomes in the end. But like the ideas, yeah. First, like the first one, I'm also very practical. So like the doorslag you've seen is like I saw a movie called Taped from Richard Linklater and think, oh, it's a movie all in one space. That's like money wise very ideal to make a movie all in one space. That's like I like those movies, and because it's also production wise, also with all my movies now, it's all in one space. But like the first one was like based things are like there were a lot of times are those family like the stories about families where like certain awful things happen, like where the father kills the whole family, um, and you never like say from how why does this happen? Like one how can you do this? And like the like yeah, I'm kind of spoiling the doorslag thing a bit, but it's about a family drama. But like on the days where we're shooting, between the two night between the 2 days we're shooting, like 2 streets further, like a family, a father like barricades his house and sets the house on fire. The whole family dies. Like it's like this, like so you it makes you think that you want to tell the story, but it's like yeah, it sounds like a very awful story now. But like certain things happen, like also mental health. Like like what I see with a lot of films these days, it's set on current trends, what is popular to tell, and but certain things are always timeless, like things on mental health, and like we every time we start talking about things, we should talk more about things, um, and then we don't, and then like these things keep on happening, and bad things happen, and so it's like it. and sadly enough, like a lot of the good films, you want to tell a story that is timeless, and sadly, these items are also timeless. So I don't know if it makes sense, like what I said now, but um, for me, mostly filmmaking is telling a good story, and I think that made people think, but also entertain them at the same time, even though even the subject, even how dark the subject also is. I don't know if my story was very incoherent. If you like, that's how I sorry my like this. I was like, maybe I have HCHD, so like it makes sense in my head, but maybe I'm too unclear. So if I need to clarify something, please ask.
No, you're good. I've been around your films for the last year. So like I feel like I have a better understanding than Mark or some of our listeners, but um there's this there's always this kind of like oh shit moment in every one of your films. I remember watching I remember being like livid watching on the air, which is the first short you did, and I remember texting you and being like, "What is this?" And like one of the things that I remember when we initially watched Amy and I, because at the time when we had watched that, it was myself and uh my co-host of that time, Praise Micah, were at the time we were curating the shorts. And we watched Amy and I, and it a that and one other film in the entire thing, we looked at each other and we just like speechless because it's a movie that comes across very much like you said, like a family drama, but it's those last few frames that I don't want to spoil for anyone that kind of really, there's this open-endedness and you're tackling these both timeless issues because on the air tackles, drunk driving and alcoholism where the kind of the fallout of that, then you move over to Amy and I and you're kind of talking about the impact of like trauma on a relationship and trying to like keep it as like spoiler free as possible. So I don't ruin it, but there's just kind of this like ambiguous am- ambiguousness to this to the storytelling that you're also bringing as a director.
Yeah, it's always like I like the stories. I feel like it's also difficult like for like how we're going to end this like because the whole thing with Amy and I it's like because it's a what I also say it's a one like it's a single take movie, and the movie started out as a like as a concept because I was working on a like on a previous film, and we were in a cafe, and I see a situation and I think, oh, I would do like to do an like a one taker, but didn't have a story, so I started working with my writer, and it started out as a romantic comedy or like like a rom-com, and like it escalated quite a bit like
Oh,
so
how
the
different it ends
so
up.
the next step, we were at the point, and we think, yeah, this is perfect. Like this is literally the opening from Pulp Fiction. So we have to move on from this, and then came the other idea, and how we gonna tell it is like it's changed with like because like a movie making is organic. Like it's not like when you like finish a script, it's done. No, like you adapt to situations. We had like
Sure.
because we're making during the like still during COVID and things were open, like we had a place to film it, and then everything opened again, so we had to change locations again, and the atmosphere changes from the one location in the end only for the better, but we had to change a lot certain things how we should handle things, and then we finally ended up yeah showing what we shown like how the movie ended up was basically like thought of a few like a week before we started to shoot because we had like different methods, but also we had to like we didn't have to time to practice the whole one take before a week before, so we know where the camera starts and ends, so we had to practice on the day itself, so it's like practical how we're going to what we're going to take in like in frame and whatnot, and it was it's also a lot of like guerrilla style improvising how we're going to take it because we didn't have the luxury to yeah to practice beforehand.
it's also crazy to me hearing that it is all one shot because I watched Amy and I again before we started recording, and there are just ways that like the camera has this like fluidity about it, and like just kind of hearing the process, I feel like makes me have even more respect than I did initially for the film.
It's yeah, what it was nerve wracking. I like aged like 30 years in one night. Like at the bit, like I was like cringed up or like how you say cramped up like this the whole evening because it was like we had an okay camera, but the lens that didn't was really made for that camera. So we had to stop a lot of times. There were like four people handling the camera because we have a focus puller. The DOP was handling the robot because it was like on a dolly with on a robot arm, and
Hmm.
so two people were just moving the thing like the camera and the dolly, and one was like steering the camera, and it was like going like technical problems non-stoply. So we had only like four takes, and the final take became the film because we didn't have that take, we didn't have a movie. It was nerve wracking, but it was like it was yeah, it's like it's safe for like glad I've done this, but I don't think I'm going to do one take next time. Like it's like for yeah, we did it. So let's move on from there. So yeah, it was like it was very hard work from everybody, and like I'm glad we did it. Also the way we did, like I'm super happy how it looks. Like glad the location we got, like we it was super nice. It was already a very atmospheric on its own. But the other challenge was like they have like real wooden floors, so like every crack you hear. So like the sound guy had also a very difficult job, and also the sound editor had to do a lot to remove that noise. Also, at the point where I can say that because then I spoil some. Like I will tell you, like I will tell you in private. But like I say, it was a lot of work. So it's like this what movie is. You just go for it all because I'm really perfectionist. So when I want to make a movie, like also with the not much money we have, I want to have the best possible end product, and I'm glad for how it turned out and how it's doing, and the reactions to it. So that's yeah, it's worth all the trouble we went through because that is like it's blood, sweat, and tears.
I'm really excited for more people to witness this. I thought it was one of the best shorts that we had in our lineup.
Things.
And yeah, so it was nominated for best short for a reason. But I think this was a perfect movie to have you on as a guest, because it's also a very human story. But Mark, what are we talking about?
28 days later, which is awesome.
Yeah, it is.
If you or someone you know is listening to this podcast right now and you're struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, we encourage you guys to please reach out. This is the heartbeat of why we do what we do. Suicide is currently the 10th leading cause of death in the United States, and as of this recording, there are 132 suicides that take place each and every day on American soil. And when you scale back internationally, there are 800,000 successful suicides. That is one death roughly every 40 seconds. So if you or someone you know is struggling, you guys can go to victimsandvillains.net/hope. That resource is going to be right in the description wherever you guys are currently listening or streaming this. There you'll find resources that include the National Suicide Lifeline, which is 1-800-273-8255. You can also text HELP to 741-741. We also have a plethora of other resources, including churches, getting connected with counselors, LGBT resources like the Trevor Project, and also veteran hotline as well. Please, if you hear nothing else in the show, understand that you listening to this right now, have value and worth. We get it. Suicide, depression, mental health, these are hard topics, and the stigma around them doesn't make it any easier. But please consider the resources right in the descriptions below wherever you guys are listening, because once again, you have value and you have worth. So please stay with us. This is I was a virgin to this movie.
I
Oh,
think
you never
I
seen it?
I've never seen it before. I bought it on VHS like 2 years ago, and it's just sat on my shelf ever
VHS?
since. Of
it's
course.
it's one of it's like Cillian Murphy's like second movie, I think.
Yeah,
And it's like Danny Boyle's directorial debut?
no.
No, the Strange Spotting.
Yeah, Train Spotting, dude.
Train Spotting.
But
Okay.
Train
but
Spotting
in a way,
precedes
I
it
thought
does
there
look
was
like it's like a debut. So,
for some reason I was thinking there was somebody involved with this, that it was their debut that went on to
No.
become a director or something. And for
You
some
are
reason I was
probably
thinking that
thinking
I'm
of Alex Garland. Alex Garland is the guy behind Ex Machina, Annihilation, and Men. This was
okay.
one of his earliest. This was one
That
of
might
his
have that
earliest
might have
roles.
been who I was thinking of then. But still.
right? Did he wrote it or
Yeah, he was the writer on this one. I think
yeah?
he had. I think this was like one of his like first or second roles that he had.
And it wasn't a big budget movie either.
No,
No,
It
but
was
who did 28 weeks later?
28
um
weeks later went to another crew. I knew that. I know that much. It's like
yeah,
I
it
think it
had a
went to a
lot bigger
Spanish
budget too.
director. Hmm.
It had a
Well,
lot bigger budget behind it.
I think honestly, like that's one of the things that like really sticks out to me about this movie is I have said on here that I'm not like the biggest fan of zombie movies, but if there are like really good zombie movies, I really like them. Mark, hold on. But I think one of the things that I really like about this movie, if you don't think it's a zombie movie and want to fight me on it, we can talk about that in a second. But this movie feels very surreal. The way that it's shot, it feels almost like documentarian. Um, it reminds me a lot of David Lynch's like final film that he did called Inland Empire. It's shot the same exact way, but it's very uneasy the way that this thing is shot, and I feel like it adds to that tension. Now the floor is yours.
Well, I mean, it plays out like a zombie movie, but it's kind of not a zombie movie.
Look,
It's one of
look.
those kind of is, but kind of not kind of things.
This is the blue. I get it. It's the blueprint to I Am Legend. Okay, it's fine.
Well, just
Oh God,
like,
you
do we
hurt
save
me.
the spoilers?
Yeah, let's do. We can jump into spoilers. That's fine.
Oh no, like
So
no, no, because like if I'm saying certain things about the plot and you think, oh, you just shouldn't spoil because people should watch, I'll shut my mouth. So like, I
It
want to be
is
sure that I
21 years old at this point. So spoiler warning if you guys were like me a couple of days ago and had not seen 28 Days Later.
that's your fault. But
yeah.
did you say this was the what did you say this was the Formula 2?
I Am
I'm a legend.
Legend.
Oh Lord.
It's literally the
Uh,
same exact movie,
You
just with
do
better
realize
actors.
I think
you
like
do
I'm legend.
realize
I
I Am
didn't.
Legend has been remade like 3 times.
I am very much aware, and I guarantee that this is also. I also know that this is a book. Um,
Okay,
s-
because I Am Legend, the last one with Will Smith, was like the third remake of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh.
there was
that I
there
did
was
not know.
one with I think Vincent Price.
Get out of here.
I forgot what it was called. The Omega Man is one of them with I think was it Charlton Heston, I think
See,
there's
but
one more.
what I'm trying to say is this is the same exact formula for I Am Legend. You have a group of people that are in the the zombie apocalypse that make a new family for themselves.
It's actually the same formula in the beginning of
Also, Night of the
Walking
Living Dead.
Dead.
Yeah.
The Walking. It's
You
the
know, The Walking
exact
Dead.
formula. The Walking
It's
Dead.
like the first episode of Walking Dead is literally a copy of 28 Days Later.
Yeah, it is.
I'm so glad I don't watch it.
Yeah. He wakes up in the hospital in the middle of the zombie apocalypse and wanders out
Okay.
into zombies to find people.
It's
It's
like
the exact
yeah,
same movie.
but like it's like with 28 Days Later. It's also like Brendan Gleeson, one of his first roles, because he's like an actor who just got more famous when on late age, right? Just before he
Yeah,
became before he got on the Harry Potter
yeah,
films.
this was right like I think a few years before he tapped into the Harry Potter
Oh,
market.
yeah, and before this film, he was in which year is from this film actually? It's 2004 or earlier already?
2002.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, there's a year after Mission Impossible 2 where he was in. Also very small part.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
so you had everybody recognize Cillian Murphy. He's in like everything off and on for the last God knows how long.
Also, I just want to throw this out there. Doctor Who's in this movie. He's the bad guy.
He's one of them. And then the girl he's traveling with is becomes Moneypenny in the Daniel
Oh
Craig
yeah.
James Bond movies. And the father is Mad Eye Moody in the Harry Potter movies. So this
Yeah.
had a lot of fairly
That's what he
big
was
name people
talking
in it.
about. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like this is you can also kind of see like how influential it is because it also seems like the pulled open to this movie where you have the animal activists that are in the trying to free all the monkeys and the test animals that they're the reason that it kind of like go to it like that's literally the blueprint for what would become Fox's reboot of the Planet of the Apes. So like the most recent trilogy that they did, like a lot of I can definitely like now I'm a huge Apes fan, so like I can definitely tell that there's like influence from this movie there.
Yeah, but it's a movie is actually so great. Like certain to like in a point where like mostly the infected are not in this movie are not real like the real enemy. It's mostly the soldiers guys. Also, when Cillian Murphy like falls down, looks up and sees an airplane, sees oh, that's spoiler alert. Sees actually that actually the world is like not like it's not everything is not gone. It's like still it's only that location.
Well, you have when he gets kind of chained up with one of the military guys. The military guy tells you what's everything that's going on. He's sitting there kind of mumbling and rambling, and he's talking about why does it make sense that this happened all over the world when it broke out on the island to begin with? We're just quarantined. Everybody else is still living their lives.
Mm.
And he talks about that he's pretty sure that it's just the UK that's just been quarantined at this point because that's where it broke out. They shut it down from spreading.
Which is like is kind of terrifying to me, like to like have that like sense of dread, like waking up after an accident and then like kind of having to endure all of that. Not to mention that this movie feels really unique to watch for the first time in a post-COVID world. Where like that's how we approach COVID. It was the same exact way to where like everyone needed to like quarantine. If you like got near anyone, then you were like it was like it almost felt like a death sentence. And I feel like this movie embraces that dread really well.
Yeah, it feels like for how people will go on with it. Like in that movie, of course, it is much deadlier and effective on dozens of people. But like we do now, we got to know other people how they will think about the whole thing when we got in quarantine. And people pro and against vaccine and like had certain names for them. And like the people who were pro vaccine were the crazy, and why vice versa. The whole I say polarization or something like that. Like everyone, like it was, it like divided really the people from where they stand during this whole regulations of everything. It was it did a lot, and weird enough now it's basically just fizzled a bit out. Like it feels like back then it feels like it never gonna end, and now it feels like it never happened, kind of in certain things.
To an extent. Yeah.
Sure.
And yeah,
Yeah.
it's uh division or polarizing. Yeah, you had it right. You were good. um but one of the things I find interesting is the look of the movie where it was shot on like mini DV camcorders.
That's
That's
what
what I also,
that's
yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I was watching it on Blu-ray, and I think like is this just a very bad like uh Blu-ray, because it looks like a lot of places it looks so very like pixely, and like is it
yeah,
me or is it this edition? But like probably it's shot on those things, and but Danny Boyle uses like filming like this a lot in his films.
yeah, they shot it on a combination of 35 millimeter and portions of it were shot on mini DV so they could get shots of like empty areas of London a lot quicker without having to go through all the big setups and all the shots and all the stuff that they had to do. They just pulled out a mini DV camera and went to it, did their shots, and moved on. So that's
Uh,
why some of it's kind of clean, but the other parts are real pixelated and grainy, is because it was shot on a camcorder.
Yeah, but it's like like it works for the film. I think like even though like that's the moment on the because mostly the production design also on things like I think like it's a fun like how it looks when they're on that roof when they're at the building where like the daughter and father lives, and they're on the roof there are just so many different tiles like in shapes in colors and anything like yeah, for a reason, this looks like beautiful, but like for how this was a lot of work getting like 100 different tiles and different colors and put it on there in like the position. Like, I love that shot for a reason.
Hey, you talking about on top of the apartments?
Yeah. When they like try to catch water and then like
Yeah.
they make it, it always rains here and now it doesn't.
I always laugh when I see that scene because he's got laundry baskets out and they're just full of holes up and down the sides. It's like, how much water are you really going to get in that?
Yeah, that's oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, they're also like
Yeah.
yeah, oh, well, like it's a
There's like three or four of them just mixed in.
Yeah, there was like there's only well like one scene, and maybe that's me. I don't know what your opinion on it is. Like when Brendan Gleeson character, when he's got like infected with the drip in his eye, he start and eventually the army guys come and he's shooting like they shoot him to bits, and his daughter is like basically not responding, even if the way he lies he just very dry says, "Dad." Like he thought at first he wasn't like screaming, then he got like shot 1,000 times, and your reaction is Dad? It's like I was really expecting you start crying, or is it me, or was it like felt a bit off?
It
Uh
could, or it could have been a case of shock. You've
Yeah,
got
yeah,
you've got a young teenager, her dad's in the process of turning and then gets turned into a shooting target. Uh, it
yeah,
could have been
I
that they just went into shock.
yeah, I would agree with
yeah, that
Mark.
could
I,
be it.
I I think it's probably more shock than anything else because like you also have to like realize that it I mean something like that, like seeing something like that has to be like traumatic in and of itself to just have a parent there one time and then boom, you're gone the next.
And watch
Yeah,
it happen at that.
Yeah, and watch it happen. Like I mean like you know the moment that like he turned that you were going to like see his death. And I think it's one of the things that is like probably one of the best moments in the film, like from a, like an emotional standpoint, is the moment that he turns like to me, like the gunfire, like having only watched this for the first time was like really shocking. But I think it's like the emotional like fallout of also like how Selena reacts to it as well, alongside with because I feel like for her character it showed a lot of growth and a lot of step in the right direction for her because when you meet her, she's very cold, she's very stoic, she's very independent, and you can kind of start to see that all of the events of this pandemic, for lack of a better word, have really kind of carved out this family and made her like given her a new identity, a new purpose.
Well, you also see what was Killian Murphy's character's name?
Jim,
Jim, was it
Jim,
Jim?
Jim, yeah,
Jim.
I think.
You
It's
all,
like, yeah.
yeah. You also
He was-
said I'm absolutely horrible with names, so that's why I have to ask him all the time.
facts. Can confirm.
yeah, I
But
think like
you
he doesn't know, like you know, yeah.
you
I
also
think,
see him you see him kind of grow as well to become someone doing what needs to be done to survive, especially when you get right there to the end where he just lays waste to the whole facility with the help of some runners.
yeah,
Yeah,
like the one point where because she's thinking like money pennies I don't know what her name is, but like sees him and thinks he's turned because he's like really enjoying like pushing in the eyes of like that soldier, like he's going at it like a beast, and then and she's like and then it turns out like he steps in the light and he's okay. And like when I first like I thought, okay, she's shocked because he's like doing something like it's really like awful because she didn't expect he would do that because she was like first all very like I will do that in a heartbeat, and later she thinks she still goes more humane, just not to just slash him and then just stops on the like right time.
I think it's
And
one of the. Go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were done.
he,
I was gonna say, I think it's like one of the privileges of this movie is getting to watch these characters grow. I think it's part of the reason that when you're telling a story, and I get slack from this all the time, but I'm a cinephile first and foremost before I'm a horror fan. So like, and I feel like sometimes character development or character growth kind of gets lost in the art of storytelling for horror films, especially the zombie genre where people want to see zombies, guns, explosions, blood, gore, eating brains. You know, you want to see the staples, but I think there's a reason that you have movies like Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, like all of these movies that are like so foundational. And I would even throw 28 Days Later into that mix is because of that human connection. That's part of the reason that I would dare even say that The Walking Dead is as popular as it is.
Well, even
is it still,
with
is it still popular though? Like I at one point I started watching.
it's, I mean, they ended the main series.
Yeah.
They had like one or two spin-offs, and now they've got two or three more spin-offs. So there's like three or four series now.
Yeah.
The original Walking Dead has ended, but there's like three or four spin-off series. I think one of them's like Norman Reedus is like going to Paris or something.
Yep.
Something weird. There's Fear the Walking Dead, where I think they're out on a boat off and on all the time.
The Fear the
Yeah.
Um,
Walking
Oh,
Dead
that was
is
the
the
first one.
prequel.
it's the prequel,
Yeah. Fear the Walking Dead
and
is the
then
prequel. They're getting ready to do the Daryl Dixon. And then Negan and
they
Maggie
got
just got a spinoff as well.
and they went to what? They went to like New York or something.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, it's I forgot where we were going with this. I got distracted.
I well, he asked about like the popularity of The Walking Dead here in
Yeah,
America. And what I was like getting
it's
at is like it's because of the character dynamics and development
oh
that
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
reason why the series lasted for 10 years. Now,
And that's what I was getting to and got distracted. Was there's even some shows, not necessarily horror, but some of the shows on TV that have lasted the longest, something like Big Bang Theory. The characters actually develop as the seasons go. And you have Like I like possession movies. I like exorcism movies a little less than possession movies because every exorcism movie is exactly the same for
Hmm.
the most part.
Yes, it
And
is.
there's not really any development in any of the characters. But then you get something like this and you see Selena actually grow to give a crap about a couple people. And you see Killian Murphy kind of uh, Jim kind of go from what the crap is going on and a harmless individual into that monster protecting the people he cared about.
Yeah,
So
but that's also like what I think personally good about those films. Like if you got certain horror films, there was one point, and then the characters are mostly like blank characters where you don't really give a crap about. Sorry, can I curse or I already
you're
did?
good.
Sorry. But then it's like they did basically there was a point during there a couple like I think they made some yeah not really great films in the 2000s. And there were like a lot of movies where you think I don't care about these characters, but there were certain films where like they paid attention. It was like the Ty West. He made the Innkeepers.
Mm.
Weirdly enough, it got like some bad reviews. Like it didn't get a high rating, but I loved it because it was like it was a good haunting story, but also the characters I really cared about. And the thing, that's what really is important. It's a story about where you follow the lead characters in which situation you're in a comedy or a horror, but you care more. Like it has more impact what happened to them in the situation than if you don't care about this character. So it's good you care about these characters in this film in 28 Days Later, so everything what happens around them, you feel like it has depth. It's like it does something to you if something happened to them. Like in other films, it doesn't happen. Like in like the Saw movies, the first one, it was really more. It was not like just torture porn. It was like it's psychological. You
Mm.
care what happened about these characters, even though they weren't like the good person. But after that, it was just a bunch of awful people. You just start waiting to get killed. That was basically it.
Yeah, the Saw franchise became about the traps and how
Yeah.
is the next person going to die as opposed to the characters themselves. I still firmly believe that Jigsaw is Kevin McAllister from Home Alone.
Keeping keeping with 28 days later. Um, one of the things that like, I think Hannah is the girl's name, the young
Yeah.
girl in this one. And
Yeah, she kind of just shuts down when her dad dies.
but I think that's like that's the type of response that you have when you experience trauma. Sometimes you go into shock and sometimes you just kind of shut down. When there have been two instances in my own life when I three instances I'll give. When I got hit by a car when I was 16 and I went into shock and I was in shock for like almost 2 days after the event.
Is that why you're
I,
so short? Did it stunt your growth?
it did not stunt my growth. I'm fine, by the way. Um, I lost a year later. I lost a friend to suicide, and losing
Oh.
someone to suicide, like it really like it really like shut me down. So like kind of seeing Hannah experience a lot of the emotions that she experiences in the latter half of this movie felt relatable because that's almost like this human response to such a thing. And I think like even going back into Amy and I, like we see that as well. Like we see that here is a couple that experienced this shared trauma and it kind of, really shut both of them down. And bring it back to 28 days later, you kind of get to see that like everyone kind of responds to trauma in their own way. And I would dare say that that's the reason why we see Selena when we first meet her. That's the reason why she is the way she is, and how Hannah ends up the way that she is by the end of this movie. How would you guys like to help us get mental health resources into schools, conventions, and other events? Well, now you can. Simply go to patreon.com/victims and villains for as little as $1 a month. You guys can help us get mental health resources into current and upcoming generations, educate and break down stigma surrounding mental health, suicide, and depression. And you get exclusive content that you can't get anywhere else. And you guys can tell us which Nicolas Cage movie you want us to cover, and we'll do it. All it takes to get started is to go to patreon.com/victims and villains, or simply click the link in the episode description wherever you guys are currently listening or streaming this episode. Pick your tier and get started today. Yes, it's that simple. So quickly select the tier that you want and help us get hope into the hands of the depressed and the suicidal today.
Yeah, true. Like what I also like, just have you seen Talk to Me?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
We both have. Yeah.
Like I say for me, like I loved it also, like because it's different, and I also like the character development there, like the leading. I don't know what her name is, but she performs so well. But also like she also has like quite a trauma, and it's like certain scenes are so performed well. Like for now, oh wow, that's also because she had some trauma. She's like a living with a family where like her mother passed away and her dad got remarried and has a new family, but she lives with that family, and how she deals with the situation, how what things happen. I think wow, that's like it's also very understandable how that works and how that's put together. That's so important if you have a good story tell together, because this is a horror film that I think one of the like the better ones I've seen in years, and also I also respect the way those guys who made it, like how they made it, because they are like because I didn't know those guys who had a YouTube channel, like with well, it's totally different than the movie itself, but it's very nice storytelling. It's also very good performing, and I don't know where I go to with this story, so I'm going to start talking now. But I really love this film.
Yeah, me and my wife went and saw that one, and that's kind of a trippy film. That's a cool one.
Coming soon to
Yeah,
a disc
it's like a teenage film, and the whole possession thing is going to be it's like a drug thing. Like instead of doing drugs together, they do like they get possessed. So it's like a drug thing. Like they share like a drug, but in this time it's not really a drug. It's like getting possessed by people and dealing with trauma as well, actually.
Yeah, because it becomes a form of escape. And I think it's kind of where you ultimately see Jim at the end of it, everything too, is that like he's kind of lost everything, and you kind of get to see the weight of what that looks like for his character by the end of it. And that's the reason why he kind of goes all Chuck Norris on the guards in the end. And it's a really effective through line for his character journey.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
also
he
like when he goes to his home and finds his parents there and read the cards, it's like it's so like
So
for it's
sad.
like for yeah they tell him yeah it's this is the most humane way for them, and like so it's like it's there like it's better than getting infected. It's becoming those creatures, so it's like it's done very well. Like it's but because this is yeah you like the most important thing is like for me is also have a great character, believe them, uh, 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 feel something for them, because that is really important. Like if you have a character that doesn't do anything for you, the whole whatever happens to that character, it's just have zero impact on you. So like it's good to have a couple of main characters who you like have sort of feel empathic for, even if they're bad guys. But like if they don't do anything for you and they don't have impact on the movie, it fails. So you need to like these characters all have their own issues, things going on, and during the story they evolve, and that's why it's also like it's a great film. It's not just like a zombie film. It's like it's a personal story about those people and in that situation was really extreme. So it's like that's why it is also great in my opinion, if it makes sense.
let me ask you guys a question. Do you think that it's more effective in terms of it being a horror film, telling it through like that personalized story? Because like I think the things that like freak me out are the most as a viewer and as a horror fan are the stories that can like actually take place. And like sure, maybe zombies don't ever come and affect us, but like, you know, there is a very real chance that like, a, a violent outbreak could happen at any point. War starts over the littlest things. And so like do you guys ever think that this makes like viewing a film in that way, especially for something like 28 Days Later, like makes it a little bit more terrifying for you?
No, it's like for what we like with this, like if there because of COVID also, like for like if this is just like COVID was like a pre-run, like for okay, it's still a very bad virus that they escape, but like what if next time it's even worse? And what will happen then if we go to the same where people already got exhausted about all the regulations and against it, but like now it's even worse. So like that is a very scary situation. Like it's for because like a lot of people just follow the rules and other people say no, we don't trust the government, and that's and then we do like we just kick against, and then like you get people drifted apart again, and we like so was also like in this film, like I say, so they're because you see you have these people and the army people who are actually like you abusing the situation, and it shows like yeah we are like in every film most of the time with like with this film is the enemies are the humans, not per se the infected. Like we are our own worst enemy in the general case. Like and that's with if like if this film shows it like also with COVID like if it comes back in a different form how it's going to be and then like if you have to be in a quarantine for 4 years or 3 years like it's some people just don't budget and then maybe things are getting worse but like that's it like for also with when finally the COVID went away in Ukraine, it starts the war with Russia, and that's not going on for over a year. And it's like for like we were finally done with one thing, and then it goes over in a different thing. And it's like for like this, it does everyone has an opinion about it. Like social media doesn't
Sure.
help because everyone getting triggered by everything and like and then also like yeah I'm just rambling through what I see also with certain movies that people yeah we now have an April O'Neil for the Ninja Turtles we now have a teenage April O'Neil who doesn't is white and has a big jogs or something then and people have podcasts about that and talk about like for why are we worrying about things like but I don't know where. See, this is also a thing. I'm going on with an opinion, but I don't really about the point. Like the thing
Well,
is, but
let
I
me
say like
look.
we're humans, we're our own worst enemy, and we're different
Yeah,
from each other.
I think that is also a very strong case because there's also a moment within this movie where you kind of have that Christopher Eccleston twist where, he's got his own self gain out there to think that you're right. Like it does. Like we are our own worst enemy. For as much as we try to help our fellow man, sometimes it bites us in the butt or, yeah. It is kind of like but even like not like against your fellow man, but like even as a man, like or a woman or non-binary, like you can be
Yeah,
your own worst enemy because you get into your head, you get into your anxiety, you get into your depression, and it just kind of leads down this like massive rabbit hole.
oh yeah, yeah, but it's like in this movie, there was also that point, of course, where the leader of the army guy seems like one of them who's kind of reasonable, and but eventually want to use those both women as to impregnate them to repopulate that island. In, like it's like oh wow, this pretty like effed up, like. But this is how their minds work because they think everything's infected and we need to create a new world and like we it's pretty like it's a very disturbing idea also because one of them is still like a teenage girl and it's like it's messed up.
Go check out our episode on Don't Breathe.
Oh wait. Yep, yep, yep.
If you haven't seen Don't Breathe,
I've seen it. Yeah,
you don't understand the reference. Go check it out. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
it is. What's your reckon on the second, like the follow up? I felt a bit icky about it
I
because,
was is very underwhelming. Very, very underwhelming. Very
but also
by
kind
the
of weird
books.
though
I
because
haven't
now
seen
that
the
guy is
sequel.
the hero of the film.
Yeah, it's not good.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the sequel.
It's yeah, it's like yeah, you don't miss anything really. It's like you could see it, but you also could skip it. It's fine.
it the first
Yeah,
one stands well on
that's
its own. So
that's a lot of movies we watch. So there's been a lot of movies we have watched that they're like, could have missed it, wouldn't have changed anything.
but you know what's not this movie? 28 days later.
Like so,
Bring it
like
bringing it
it's
back.
no, yeah, yeah. No, this is a great film. You should watch it, and also like the soundtrack is I really liked it. Um, and
I like
I also can recommend actually the sequel. That's actually also quite a good movie.
That's what everyone told me. Like I posted this on my Facebook that like this was my first time watching, and everyone was like, "Wait to the sequel." And like the sequel's got like a great cast. Like it's got like a young like Idris Elba, like nah, the Idris Elba's the only name I remember from the list when I looked at it earlier this week.
Yeah, it's like it's about I've seen this film, but I liked it, and also a great soundtrack. But it's yeah, it's a bigger movie, but it's I really enjoyed it as well. Like it's like the first one was very like small, like a like more like yeah, what you say it's low budget, so it's what intimate is like a closer personal story, and 28 weeks later it's much bigger, but still like it's a really good film, and definitely check it out. But they did though make a like another one, I think, or
they've
but
made
They
I know
they've made two. They
they've made
made
two.
28 days. They made 28 weeks. They're talking about doing like 28 months,
Yeah.
doing a third one.
They've been
But
talking about that for a while, even to the point where during Oppenheimer's press
yeah.
earlier this year,
yeah.
Cillian Murphy was like, "Yeah, we should do it now."
And I've actually seen some stuff where I guess they are working on a script or in pre-production or something.
Well, that is clearly uh, that has clearly been halted because of the strike right now. So
Uh,
go support writers and actors. But anyways, uh, is there anything else that you guys like want to talk about? Like, as I think we've covered some good ground on this one.
Um, Now it's like I just like for I yeah I don't know if you want to talk about like because I asked Josh about like if he knows a Dutch movie, and apparently like what I also joke like we like the Dutch movie industry is not that great, but we do have like some Dutch directors who made a short horror film that is now picked up by Hollywood,
wait,
and
was where was Bumpercleef from?
that's
Bumpercleef
Dutch. Yeah,
was
that's a Dutch film.
okay. It is Dutch.
You've seen Bumper Cliff?
We we
Yes,
have we've
and
reviewed
we
it. We did an
enjoyed it.
episode. We did an episode on
Really?
Bumpercleef. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, we
Well,
got
because
to
yeah,
we got some screeners and we got to preview it, and that was a fun
wow.
movie.
yeah.
Okay, that's funny because it's like it's yeah it didn't do well in the cinema here, but like there was like a movie later with Russell Crowe that seems like really looked like this film, and it
It's
was
the
like
same exact movie.
Bump labels for like first, but no, it's a friend, like a director friend of mine who also had like a good run with his short film. He made a short horror film called The Gnomes Are Coming. It's about killer
That's
gnomes,
amazing. I'm
and
sold.
it's like a really cool proof of concept film, but it got picked up by Sony, and now the writers of Ant-Man are writing a script like when they're going to start writing again. But like it's a like you should I can send the details, but it's a really fun movie. It's like a 4 minute movie about killer gnomes. All the effects are practical. It's really nice.
I grew up on Goosebumps, and they had a Goosebumps book about that, so I'm here for that 100%. But Yeah, so we'll provide in the show notes below. You guys will find links to Bastian's movie On the Air, his short film. If you guys are have a chance to catch Amy and I is now making its way around the world in terms of festivals. Where can people find you online?
I'm on Instagram under bastiaan-rook. So yeah, also on Facebook and Twitter, but Twitter I don't use much. So just follow me on Instagram at bastiaan-rook,
We'll,
ROOK.
we'll provide links for that as well in the show notes below. But
Okay.
Mark, where can people find you?
I'm actually posting painting stuff again finally.
It only took a year.
Yeah, and moving cross country. Titanium Juggernaut painting on Instagram.
You guys can find me. I'm on Letterboxd at Captain Nostalgia. You guys can check out my other podcast. That's High Praise, a Nicolas Cage podcast where we talk about all of Nicolas Cage's career. And you guys can
Oh,
follow.
cool.
Yeah, you guys can follow our parent company, Victims and Villains, wherever you guys get your podcast from, along with Abyss Gazing. But you guys can find Victims and Villains on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and of course, wherever you guys get your podcasts from. So until next time, remember the longer you gaze into the abyss, the more the abyss gazes back into you.